Welcome to Optimal Game State. That's the end of 2023. So we're starting into 2024. And for this video, what I thought I'd do is have a quick look back at everything that's happened in the last year. This video isn't scripted. I do have a bunch of visuals ready, but I'm just going to be talking over it. And there might be a little bit of rambling. I'm going to talk about what we've had, the kind of directions that GW have taken. We're going to be focusing on all the box games as usual. There's going to be a lot of emming. There's maybe going to be the occasional misstep and mistake, but we're just going to get through that and just see what we can have. We are going to be talking about all the ones we've got on screen. So that's Killteam, Warcry, Necromunda, Bloodbowl, Warhammer Underworlds, the Epic line. So that's Legions Imperialis, but we're also going to briefly talk about Titanicus, and Aeronautica hasn't really had anything this year yet. And we're not going to talk about Warhammer Quests because they didn't really get anything at all this year. It's going to be a bit of a ramble. This is a yearly wrap-up, and it's kind of an opportunity to see what has been done, the direction GW are taking, what's worked, what hasn't worked, and just to kind of round out the year. We're going to start with Killteam. Killteam, of course, had started the year with Into the Dark already in place, so this was a series where they were kind of working through that. So we got Soul Shackle, we got Gallowfall. Was there another one in there? I feel like there was another one as well Into the Dark. Was there 4 boxes total? Yeah, I think there was another one with Necrons and something else. Anyway, the key part here is we've had a shift. So with the Soul Shackle and the Gallowfall boxes, we had more Into Dark terrain, which really was a pain. It was way too much. You just needed the one box. There briefly was a 40k variant boarding actions where 2 boxes would make sense, but 3 or 4 just was getting a bit silly. So as we'll talk about, and we'll see more with Warcry, they have changed the format. We've now gone into a box and terrain. So we're keeping the terrain separate, which is cool, which is good. I kind of do like that. We had Ashes of Faith, which I did pick up and I have assembled, but I haven't got around to painting. This one's very interesting. And it looks like this was kind of a once-off and they've gone away from it. It is packed with cardboard. There are like boards and card packs that are like the large tarot-sized decks. It looks like super high quality. But it kind of came out of the blue and then just went. And I know the majority of people weren't able to pick it up. I do have a video of myself. I just thought I'd record it. I never actually used it, just how you, at the time, picked up stuff from GW. And it literally was 10 minutes to hit and refresh, and then it appears at 5 minutes, and then just get it through, bang, and have your payment details already in, and then seconds later it's out. It's gone from the store. And this was a common thing with Killteam. Killteam has been super popular for a number of reasons. It's a very popular game. Warhammer 40k in particular is a very popular IP. The kill teams they've been doing for them have been absolutely fantastic. We'll have a look at some of them in a second. It's just been great stuff. Like, the models are beautiful, the setting is great, but they were selling out again and again and again. And I think this is part of GW's growth. They had a big spike during COVID where sales just went up and up and up and up. And they've turned into this big multi-million-dollar company, but still haven't really changed too much. So a lot of their money is coming from markup. They don't really have production. Manufacturing, maybe, is probably better way of saying it. They don't have the manufacturing in place to keep up with the demand. So the supply is always less than the demand, and you could not see it worse with anywhere than the Killteam line. It was a real tragedy, and I think it damaged the game in places. Now, we did also have Ashes of Faith and in Gallowfall. So the Cultist Killteam, and briefly the Inquisitor Killteam and the Beastmen, whatever that one was called. they all cause major problems during the season. And Killteam is a game where balance is kind of important. Each of the teams, you don't really have a lot of flexibility in how they're built, which I guess is a little bit misleading. I mean, there are lots of options within the teams, but you are limited within the team in what your options. You can't kind of switch like we can maybe in Warcry, which we'll talk about later. So it is very important to have balance right. And when you get into a scenario where one team is super dominant, it does cause problems overall. So Killteam has had issues throughout the year. And then for like the second half of the year, the season kind of ended and they never quite got on to the next season. Now, we did get the release for the next one, which is Space Marine Scouts versus Aspect Warriors, starting with the Striking Scorpions, but we'll presumably see more to mix into that later. And they're up for pre-order now, and you'll see them like midway through January. So we are moving into the next season. It does look like it's an ocean world. I really hope there's more than just that. Yeah, so there's been a lot of problems. Killteam has been remarkably successful. The game's fantastic, although I haven't had many games at all myself. I'm still way behind on the curve on that. We did have the Warhammer Heroes, which was an interesting one. Notable for that is you did get cards. And I think those cards were successful enough, or at least the GW guys liked it enough, that they are bringing it into new season, which is wonderful to see. Big fan of cards. Love them. And we got the annual for Killteam as well, which, I don't know, like the annuals are a bit weird. They bring together all of the books that are already out of print. So if you wanted to play the squats out of Galifall and you didn't manage to get the Galifall book, the rules were not in the squat box, which is ridiculous. So you had to go out and pick up the annual instead. I don't know. I honestly feel like the annual maybe is a bit of a waste, or at least in the format it is. That all feels like PDF stuff that they should have up online, so they could just sell the models. Sell the models, guys. It's that's the core business. You shouldn't be putting barriers to it. And then bring the annual in with new ways to play, different options, different things. But the actual kind of core elements on the reason why you're going to be picking up a box shouldn't be gatekept by a chunky book. Anyway, we had tons. Well, okay, we had 6, and then the Heroes Space Marine kill team as well. So it's 7 new kill teams in total. These all, yeah. If we look through them, so the RBTs are brand new, are absolutely gorgeous. The squats are brand new, gorgeous. Beastmen, I don't like the style of them, but they are brand new. They've added something different. The Dark Eldar were just a extra kit onto the existing one, which, it helps. It's always a little disappointing when they go that direction rather than a completely brand new one. But the overall, the team looks pretty great. The Inquisitor team, I think the models are absolutely gorgeous. And there's a lot of customization. The criticism probably is that it's only 6 and that you're kind of expected to buy 2 boxes to kind of fully round it out. And some of them don't, some of them are kind of duplicates then. So it's not an efficient buy. It kind of, it's a bit awkward. I think they could have added a few more legs or something and you could have got a lot more out of that kit. Anyway, I do like it. Some of those models come from the old Inquisitor game. And are very iconic. So, great addition. And then it was quite interesting to see the Chaos Cultists. It was very clever, I thought, to wind that in and give it rules, because we had a fantastic line of Chaos Cultists that have been released relatively recently. The models are all looking great. And, the mechanics of being able to turn them into big beasties was very cool. The campaign that they had, and I know I mentioned this briefly already, the campaign that they had in Ashes of Fate was very, very clever, different. I really liked it. Obviously, I haven't had a chance to play through it. It's just a matter of reading through it and seeing what there is. But so few people got it, and then it's gone. It was a 2-player campaign, which is something that you don't always see. And normally it's kind of focused around a big, massive, 5-6 player play at the store once a week kind of campaign. So the kind of 2-player back and forth is super interesting. I I think it's maybe a little bit more of a common kind of way to play, or at least in my experience. Anyway, Killteam had a fantastic year. It may not seem it, but they got a bunch of new kill teams. The pacing was off and the release schedule was off. But I think if you only played Kill Team and picked up everything that they sold, you'd be pretty happy. You would have plenty of models to be painting throughout the weeks, and you'd have a good variety. Warcry is similar. It's a game a little bit closer to my heart. Again, we had the 2 big boxes. We're still working through the Gnarlwood, which is the jungle campaign setting. We did get a new starter set. Now, this was one of my more popular videos, was the best starter you should never buy, or something along the lines of that. It's a great starter. It really is. Like, the guys who put it together did a fantastic job. The models are gorgeous. I like the scatter terrain. The rule book that went along with it is great for getting into it. It's all kind of intro games. The board, I didn't like. The board was paper rather than cardboard, but you could forgive that if the price was reasonable. The price on this wasn't reasonable. This was a premium price, and the contents really didn't justify it. So I already have the 2 warbands. They are 2 fantastic sets of sculpts and painted up really well. I'm super happy to have them, and they are ones that go into a lot of warbands. So they are competitive fighters. But after you'd got that expensive box, you then needed to replace so much of it. You needed to get the rulebook, because the rulebook in there wasn't enough. You needed to get a actual board, because that wasn't enough. You needed to get more terrain, because a tiny bit of terrain in there, while nice and evocative, wasn't enough. And frustratingly, the terrain in there goes super well with the mausoleum terrain, which hasn't been around for years. You cannot just pick it up. You can't get it, which is a real shame. Like, if that was out there, that would have really helped this box. Yeah, so did it even have dice? I'm not sure if it even had dice. If it did, it had kind of the normal dice rather than fancy dice. It was a really good kit to get started with Warcry, but the price point was way too high. Like, I think it was near $90. And encouraging someone to start out with a $90 initial purchase, which then only has an escalating entry after that, is just silly. It was just a mistake. We have moved from the big box format, so that was Blood Hunt and Nightmare Quest. We are now moving over to Hunter and Hunted. It is a nice new format. It's the same as we're seeing happening with Killteam. So we are separating the terrain from the warbands, which I think is good. Personally, I haven't picked up Hunter and Hunted myself. I know it does have a nice campaign for the 2 warbands, which is good. I'm not particularly interested in ogres. I do want to get my hands on that human warband. It does look like a lot of fun. Anything with doggos is good. So we're probably going to see more of that down in the future, which I'm kind of okay with. I'm a little annoyed that the terrain, so the Runes Talaxis, gone. It sold out really fast. Now, it wasn't something that I wanted to pick up. I have to admit, the Norwood terrain isn't a season I've been interested in when it came to terrain. I've been spending more of my time picking up third-party building terrain, because I kind of want to do a city fight, like more time. I've often talked about Curse City. I do like that setting. I think it'll make a good version. The point here is that Warcry is still set in the Norwood. We've been set there for quite a while. It does feel like we've explored every last part of it. When you look at the initial map of the Norwood, it felt like this big unexplored jungle, but now we're getting near the end, or we're at the point where there seems to be locations everywhere. It's as if, it's been paved over with concrete and there are just buildings everywhere at this stage. It's been so explored. We've looked at every nook and cranny. I really feel like we should be moving on somewhere else. And we might be. So 2024, the rumor is we are going to see new Age of Sigmar. And that Age of Sigmar main game is going to have the Stormcast versus Skaven. So we should be getting a Skaven refresh. Depending on how they do that, we might end up shifting settings. So normally with a big release like that, they kind of take it to a new plane or a new realm. So we have been doing a lot of stuff in the realm of Gur, which is Realm of Beasts. Maybe we'll take it somewhere else. We could go to Shaiish, the Realm of Death. We could go to any of the others. And if we do so in Age of Sigmar, typically what happens is Warcry will follow. Warcry will then take it to a small niche part, the Norwood is a very tiny, although it's a massive jungle, it's a tiny part of Gur. So if we move to a new realm for Age of Sigmar's story, we might end up moving Warcry. I would love to see that. New kits for terrain, just new styles. The Norwood stuff, as we'll see with these warbands, has really, really worked. They have done a really great job. So these are some really evocative, I want to say jungly kind of interpretations of everything. The style of it does really fit the realm of beasts. And yeah, all of these warbands just look fantastic. And it does have a contrast in how we've been receiving the Warcry warbands compared to Killteam. It's kind of interesting. With Killteam, the approach, at least now, seems to be to try get in all of the major 40k factions. And because those factions are then, or those models are then going to be used for 40k, I suspect we are going to see more and more of the kill teams being straight 40k kits. So the Space Marines, that's just a 40k kit. The Striking Scorpions, that's just a 40k kit. And then they add some kill team rules, like they used to. But we had so many evocative custom versions that it just really made a difference. Here, we're still doing those. All of the Warcry warbands that we've seen so far have been very unique, have had their own kind of twist. And when they are ported over to Age of Sigmar, they're kind of special, unique units rather than generic troops, if that makes sense. So, yeah, the current approach for Warcry is fantastic. If they move to a new realm, we're probably going to end up with a kind of different theme going on. That could be cool. As I said, the Norwood hasn't really done it for me, but I appreciate the effort that has been put in and the work that has been done with it. I've only put these warbands here. It is notable that we've actually had a massive amount of releases for Warcry when you look at the PDFs or when you look at the White Dwarf releases. So we've had all of the Underworld warbands come in, and we've had the new Cities of Sigmar line refresh came in. That was big. Those are like massive PDFs, tons of models. It's I did pick up the Cities of Sigmar starter box myself, so I'm still working my way through the cavalry. I got all the infantry done. I still got a little bit more to do on them, and I haven't picked up the command box, which does look like it's a very good addition for this new warband. Point being, we are beginning to see the porting of models from the main Age of Sigmar line down into Warcry. We didn't see it for the Orcs. We didn't see it for the Lizardmen. So they both had two big refreshes, and the rules don't fully accommodate those new models, which is very frustrating. And I don't want to say it's a simple thing for them to do, because it is, and I've certainly tried build custom rules myself. It does take time. It does take effort to get it right. But this isn't like with Killteam. With Killteam, you have to carefully balance every Killteam, because one being too powerful is just going to kind of cascade, make a mess of the entire game, unfortunately. A lot of it's based around tournaments. Warcry does have a tournament scene, and balance can be important in that, but the system is a lot more resilient and is a lot more flexible. So if you're introducing a new warband, because of the way you can ally in and you can kind of share around things, the overall impact is lessened. So you've got a little bit more flexibility into it. So when we got those Cities of Sigmar rules in, they don't have to be perfect. You know what I mean? So yeah, I would like to see more of that happen. So fingers crossed in 2024, we're going to see a little bit more of a alignment between the models that come out for Age of Sigmar and the Warcry rules. And again, this is simple. We just want a reason to buy models. As long as GW gives us a reason to buy models, we're going to buy models. So yeah, I really feel like that's money being wasted, money that's GW aren't picking up. That's just lying on the ground for them. Because if they had updated the Orc rules once that new line of Orcs came out, a lot of the Warcry players, which I know isn't maybe a massive percentage of players, but I think it's probably more than they think, would have been able to pick up those models and have a little bit more fun with them. All right, so those are the two big lines. That's Killteam and Warcry. Arguably, Necromunda is also one of the big lines. There are a couple of the games in this, I guess, in the branch of the Specialist Studios that are super popular and have been around forever and are going to continue making GW money, maybe without too much effort on their part. Necromunda. What do we have for Necromunda? One of the big releases was a new core rulebook, which I thought was great. I have it. I don't think I've done more than flicked through it, but it's a real comfort to have a consolidated, up-to-date rulebook, especially because there were so many problems with everything floating around. We do also have two more in the Arantian succession, so we finally finished out that series. I do have a video that's due to go up soon enough that's just talking about the background. I really enjoyed it. I can understand why some people have issues with it, because the main Necromunda game is all about nobody lowlives in the Undercity, just duking it out. And then this campaign, this series, so it's 3 different books. If you want, you can play each of the campaigns through and do the kind of full thing. But it's a lot of background story happening at like what's happening in the upper hives, nobles fighting nobles, and the clan houses facing off against each other. So it's never really Escher and Goliath facing off against each other, although it certainly happens. When you're playing your games of Necromunda, it's actually under gangs. So it's a Escher sponsored gang with Eschers in it who go down and duke stuff out. But they're kind of almost kind of a third party. They kind of work for the Eschers. They are ganged by Eschers, but it's not the Escher properly, if that makes sense. But these books, this campaign is definitely like big players. It's all the movers and shakers. The entire thing about it, the Arantian succession, is all about the fall of the House of Helmar, which is the planetary governor. So we're at that level. It's big stuff. It's movers and shakers. Part of that is because Necromunda has been split into 2 games. You might not realize it, but we do have Necromunda Underhive, which is where you're fighting away with your gangs in the hive, and we also have the Ash Wastes, which, while using the same set of rules, doing the same things, having a lot of crossover, really is a different game. It's kind of the Gorka Morka of the game lines. It is basically about vehicle combat. It's big open spaces with maybe a little bit of cover in the middle, and you get to tear around with your vehicles and have some fun. It's cool. It is very, very Necromunda still, but at the same time, it is a different game. It's a very different approach. It's a different mood, different style. We're into the Mad Max kind of style of game. I love it. It's cool. It's great. Right now, I am focusing on my Underhive. I have a ridiculous amount of gangs, too many gangs. I've just been picking up the core boxes, and I think I've got 2 more to finish off the main gangs. Yeah, that's a problem. But I haven't started picking up the vehicles yet. It's kind of once you've kind of played Necromunda, once you kind of developed through a good chunk with your infantry gangs, you have the option then to add more vehicles and get more gameplay. So more styles, like it's great. Like you get to get more gaming out of your models, which is never a bad thing. It can be expensive though. I'm delighted to see that new Palanite, I say Palanite all the time, Palanite Enforcer Tauros vehicle is in plastic, although unfortunately that squat Explorator was a resin monstrosity. I think it was over $100 or €100. It's a spicy meatball. But yeah, seeing more of the plastic, and that's the only one. Actually, that's the only resin out of this particular screen, which I think is all of the vehicles that came out in 2023. Speaking of which, models. There are a ton of models. Necromunda gets regular releases, and it is essentially to round out the background that they've got there. It's great. Now, all of this is resin, except for those 2 Enforcer ambots, or bots. Everything else is a resin model. I'm not particularly upset about that. It is, in ways, a little bit frustrating that these are typically all named or special characters. That means you're not going to be able to easily get them into your gangs. On the other side, it did offer a lot of opportunities when you were doing the Aranthian succession to kind of play out actual events, actual historical events from the campaign, which I thought was really, really cool. I absolutely love that. I thought it was great. And yeah, the approach that they've taken, where you've got a mission, and then it's got a little sidebar saying exactly what you need to do, which models to include to actually have this play out as kind of a historical battle from the story. That was a wonderful addition. I really, really liked that. That was great. Necromunda is in a great place. I'm expecting another series of books because the Aranthian Succession. Check out my upcoming video where I go through the lore, the story on that, and you'll see that there are a lot of loose ends left at the end. So we're probably going to see more along that. And yeah, Necromunda is in a healthy position. You just have to keep spending money on all of those big res models if you want to. And actually, for most of these, none of these are a requirement. It is quite easy to just get your 2 plastic boxes for your gang, and you're good to go. Yeah, so it's in a pretty good place. And again, this is one of the good selling GW specialist game ones. Speaking of which, allegedly Bloodbowl is actually the best selling GW game that they have. They don't have to put a lot of effort into it. They've got most of the releases out already. So yeah, they just keep selling teams, and it works. This year, we did get the match playbook, which I've got put up there. Not really a big deal. It just kind of formalized a few bits and pieces. You got the superstars in it, which is a nice rules addition. I think a lot of this were rules that the event organizers were already using, and this was just kind of a way for kind of GW to get in there and get it up. Gutter Bowl, it's just another fun way of playing the game, I guess. It's another case where you've got lots of experience playing Blood Bowl. You've already got your 7s, which is probably a better way to play the small intro games. You've got Dungeon Bowl, which has been madness, and now you've got Gutter Bowl. It's just more ways to play Blood Bowl. Not something for me, I have to admit. I think I'm kind of happy playing just 7s and just playing the main Blood Bowl game, because I don't play it enough to need different ways. But Gutter Bowl is there if you needed it. The big release this year was a Vampire Blood Bowl team, of course. That's one of the teams of Legends. So that reduces the number we have. What are we left with? So we still need High Elves, we need Khemri, we need Chaos Dwarfs. I think that's it. So those are the next few releases we're going to see. And the way they've been doing it has been very, very clever. They essentially take what was there and then tweak it and update it. And I do like the way the teams that we're seeing come out now. So you see this with the Norse and you see this with the Amazons. They tend to be complete with the single box. So some of the teams, like I did just pick up a Skaven team recently, but I went for third-party 3D printing because the alternative was to buy 2 full boxes of the GW box, and you'll have tons of repeats. Didn't want to do that. I wanted to do something that actually had all the positionals, all the players I wanted, but still kind of looked a bit unique. But we're not seeing that with the new teams. The new teams, they've managed to kind of square that hole, as it were. So yeah, hopefully we'll see some cool new stuff. We did also get a ton of special players. Again, these are all resin, but they're slowly rounding out the options, which is kind of cool to see. I think some of these are new as well. So a lot of the special players are ones that already existed, but we are beginning to see some new ones. Blood Bowl 3, I didn't do any slides for it, but it did come out. It did come out last year or the year before. What's 2022 when it came out? And it's been kind of progressing through in 2023. It's had a lot of trouble, a lot of ups and downs. They went through a new season. Speculation, my understanding is it is getting better and better as they go along. And I think it is kind of an important part of the Blood Bowl ecosystem, as it were. Blood Bowl 2, its predecessor, really established itself as a great way to play Blood Bowl and practice Blood Bowl. But now we're into the new season, we've got new rules. Blood Bowl 3 is the only way to play that. Sorry, that's not true. There are other ways, but Blood Bowl 2 is no longer an option if you want to go by the current up-to-date Blood Bowl rules. So, yeah, Blood Bowl 3 is kind of important. But as I said, it is getting better. Every report I hear on it kind of is a little bit more encouraging. And I think we're probably at the point where, if you're interested in it, it is something where the game is playable enough that you can actually enjoy it. Next up, we have Warhammer Underworlds, which had 2 big releases, which is Weird Hollow and Death Gorge. And then they got a new starter box. Weirdly enough, there's 2 starter boxes. One is kind of a special release that you can find in some stores, and the only difference that I can understand is I think the Stormcast change. Depending which one you go, there's a different set of Stormcast. Anyway, Underworlds has a pretty steady release, which is always nice to see. Every second month, they get stuff. Normally what they get is they get a new Rivals card pack and they get a new warband. But it is super regular. It is super expected. The current preferred format for this is Nemesis, to the best of my knowledge. And Nemesis means you pick the warband you want, you pick a Rivals deck that you want, and you play with both of those. This means it is super easy to start into it and get playing. The big boxes, so Weird Hollow and Death Gorge, usually always have 2 warbands, 2 Rivals decks, so you can mix those up, and they always have the boards and dice you need. So I do feel like they are a good way to get started in. I do find they maybe happen a little bit too frequently. So once every 6 months. I don't play this game enough. I don't play this game at all. I struggle anytime I'm talking about the Rivals card packs because I don't fully understand what's good and what's not. I do collect it. I do pick up a good chunk of these Underworlds models. And when I have the chance, I will try pick up the cards. So I do have a small box that is full of the cards, and I've got maybe 3 of the core boxes. So I've got multiple boards, and I've got an extra starter box. But as I said, I've played it a handful of times. I feel like it's kind of tricky to intro someone into this. With a lot of the other games, you can put the models down on the board, and you can say, "Go, let's have some fun," and then you can kind of explain to them as they roll, move and then roll, and you can tell them exactly what's involved. But with Underworlds, I always feel like there needs to be a decent understanding of the card side of it to fully embrace the game, to fully get the game. And that can be a little bit tricky. Like at best, you can build a deck for them so they have it, try explain the deck to them. Maybe for the first game, play through the game with them revealing their hand so you can both see it and you can kind of help them pick what you want. But yeah, I've always struggled in how to kind of pitch this to people just because there's so much that they need to know. Now, obviously, if you and a mate are into this, I'm sure you can have a lot of fun. It is quick and easy to set up. You can, play in a pub. Board size is really small. Releases are regular. Actually, let's go on to the warbands. The warbands are gorgeous. Like I pick up these warbands just because I like the look of them and I enjoy painting them. And I have done all the way through. It is some of the best models that GW make at the moment. I'm happy to say that. I mean, the Warcry ones are kind of larger warbands. They do have kind of a similar level of character, but maybe not as much because I think maybe the designers kind of spend a lot more time because they've got less models to work on here. They've done a fantastic job, but yeah, I really struggle to get into the game. It's just one of those one of those things. But I'll continue picking up these models. I'll continue painting them, I think. And this is probably something that kind of goes across all the lines. The pace that they have, and especially this is one of the few games that they managed to be completely regular with, possibly because the releases are so small. It's just nice. It's nice having kind of a regular drip, and there's kind of good models, and there's a good amount of variety. And you can kind of practice different painting styles and different approaches and different colors. It's always something new. So every 2 months, you're getting something new. And yeah, it's a nice pace. And that's something that I think we've kind of seen across most of the game lines. I am in the unfortunate position that I spend way too much money because I try to keep up on everything, which is very much a mistake. I think if there is a line that you're happiest with and you're willing to kind of stick with, the release schedule does seem to be enough for a normal, sane person to keep up with. But just for one game. If you try and meddle with more than one game, all of a sudden your backlog will start spiraling horribly out of control. Legions Imperialis, only two. Well, okay, so there was a release for Titanicus very early in the year, which was the campaign compendium, which we already have the main rulebook. We've got the Loyalist Legios and we've got the Traitor Legios. So those are 2 books, and then we've got the campaign compendium, which basically pulled together a lot of rules that were released in earlier books into a single one. So the previous books we were seeing were a lot of campaign books. They had a lot of backstory, a lot of history, and then we had kind of campaign options and missions and stuff like that. This strips out most of that story and then just kind of pulls everything else together. So if you wanted to, you could get a core rule book, one or both of the Legio books to kind of cover the side you were interested in, and then the campaign compendium, and then you had everything you needed for your Titanicus games, which was nice. It was really good. Obviously, everything for Titanicus is getting reboxed, and Aeronautica is getting reboxed. We're losing all of Aeronautica's Xenos, and we're losing some of their Astra Militarum, which is a real shame because I really like the Valkyries. And the gunships look very stylish. So we're losing those, and we haven't had many releases. So I think the Thunderhawk has come out. So there's a lot of those that are due to come out that have yet to be reboxed. So we're going to see those in the new year. Legions Imperialis, I didn't prepare a slide with all of the releases for them, but there's a lot. Partially because Legions Imperialis has its own set of releases, but it's also bringing in the Titanicus and it's bringing in the other side. I have enjoyed these. I'm loving playing with these. So I've got, not sure if I can squeeze it up. This is one of my Krautos. I need to get them all painted. I've got all of my Astartes infantry, so that was all of the Legion forces out of the main box, and then an extra small box. And then I have got all my tanks to get through. So I'm going to try to get through all of the Legion side of it first, and then I'll see what I do after that. I do have games planned in January. It looks like a lot of fun. I've got a ton of scenery to get through. Yeah, I think it was a really good release. I'm super happy with what they've done. Obviously, we had about a 3-month delay, maybe longer. I can't remember exactly how long it was. So they've got a lot of catch up to do. But we do have Epic back. And the detail on the models looks good. I know some of the infantry, a lot of people were kind of concerned by the undercuts, the infills, the parts where it kind of all melds together, which does look a bit dodgy when you kind of zoom super in on it. But they're so small, they're so tiny. Like you don't see it when you've got it down on the board and you're playing on the table. So yeah, the models are fine. It does look like the game is good. The basics of them with, you get your concealed orders down, which gives some small benefits, and then you've got the back and forth. So I think any of the games that actually do have the back and forth are probably better. So that's one of the reasons I don't focus a lot on the main lines. I don't focus maybe on the 40k and Age of Sigmar. I do have 40k armies and I do have Age of Sigmar armies, but yeah, I just prefer talking about the rules that we have from the boxed and skirmish lines. So yes, I think Legion Imperialis is a big success. Everything sold out, and Yeah, I mean, does that really tell us anything? It tells us that GW didn't make as much as they should have, I guess. Um, yeah, but you're not sure by how much. I mean, how many people wanted to get this and couldn't, or did they just magically get exactly the number that people wanted? It is an interesting game. It's a lot more expensive than I think people might imagine. I talked about this in one of the other videos. There's just so many bits that you can just keep adding on. It's very easy to. I think the price points are like £30, €40, $50. Well, you could easily spend $50 on a new box every month for the rest of the year, and you still maybe wouldn't have much of. You wouldn't have everything you want anyway. There's just going to be so much to get, so much to pick up. And then, after you finish, or after I finish my Imperial Fists, I want to do a second army. I want to do some um, Iron Warriors to face off against them. As more bits and pieces come out, you're going to pick up more options. I do already have the Titanicus Knights and the Aeronautica vehicles, which is a big help. But I am going to want to add to that. I'm going to add a few more of the um, whatever the ones below the Thunderhawks level are. Storm Ravens. There's more. There's always more to pick up to kind of get the options you want and do the bits and pieces. It's been a great release. Very happy with it. We'll see how it goes in the new year. And that's all the main lines. So I think, okay, maybe Warhammer Quests is the one left out. Killteam had a good first half of the year, and then the kind of releases dried up, which was very unfortunate. Warcry has had a pretty steady release schedule throughout, but a lot of the big releases, weirdly for Warcry, were actually stuff like the PDFs and the White Dwarf releases. And I'm really I guess I'm not too surprised. Killteam doesn't get that anymore, and part of that is, I think, because a lot more design time and effort goes into making a kill team than necessarily does for one of the Warcry warbands. Warcry has been getting cards in each of their boxes, which I think is significantly better than what's been happening with Kill Team. Fingers crossed, this new approach of adding the cards that they've had in the new Salvation box, so that's a double box with no terrain, or with a little bit of terrain. Hopefully we start to see those cards go into the other boxes. That would be a big improvement if you could pick up a Kill Team and the cards were in it. Now, the problem with that, the tricky part with that, is if they do that, it is going to impact the Warhammer 40k side of it. So you are going to want to pick up some scouts if you're a Space Marine player. You are going to want to pick up some Striking Scorpions if you're an Eldar player. Should you be playing the extra overhead of getting Kill Team cards that you might not ever play? We'll see. So, I mean, I guess GW have kind of two things. Either they're going to gouge the 40k players by making them pay premium for cards they don't need, or they're going to reduce the quality, I guess, for the Kill Team players and not give them the cards they need and then make them buy another book elsewhere. Yeah, we'll see. Necromunda is taking away. It's always doing its own thing. You're constantly getting, I didn't mention this, but there's Ash Waste custom kits for the various gangs, so you're able to do lots of masks. Actually, the Cawdor one has an absolutely adorable one where the Cawdor gangers don't have proper masks, but for some reason the little bomb rats that they carry around with them do. They're the cutest little things. So Necromunda and Bloodbowl are kind of doing their own thing because their fan base is so dedicated and so committed that they're always going to be doing it. And in both cases have been doing it, even when GW didn't support it. So as long as GW keeps pumping out stuff for both of those games, people are going to keep playing it. People are going to keep buying it. And if GW stop, people are still going to keep playing those games. That's not going to be a problem. Underworlds, I don't know what's happening with Underworlds. It's always kind of a tricky one to kind of get a head around because it's very disjointed compared to the rest, if that makes sense. Because it is kind of a card game with boards, with models, where all of the others are kind of war games, sorry, skirmish games with cards as reference, whereas in Underworlds, cards are the kind of core part of it. As long as they keep pumping out those releases, though, people are going to keep buying it, because if it feeds into Warcry, which it seems to, they've got back into that. We did get our Nethermaze selection, which was a big omission for quite a while, so we're delighted to see that. And we always get Age of Sigmar rules for it. So as long as they keep doing that, that game is going to be great. It's going to be fine, even if no one ever plays it. And by all regards, the games I have played of it, I've really enjoyed. I thought it was very clever. It's just, I don't kind of see an easy way in for people. And the Nemesis format is an easy way in for people. What I mean to say is I don't see an easy way for me to convince somebody to sit down and play it casually like I do with the other games, which are a lot easier to kind of sell people on, because you're like, here's the board, here's the warband, here's some dice, let's have some fun. Kind of makes a little more sense. Legions Imperialis, again, we're super excited to see it. So far, it's off to a great start. I guess we need to see more and more people play it to kind of get a feel for it. I do think I have seen some tier lists come out. So that's where people are talking about the various legios and saying which one is the best and which one is the worst. This isn't the right approach as far as I'm concerned. There definitely are tiers. There definitely are things that are going to be better, they're going to be worse. I have struggled myself when I've been assembling my tanks over exactly what to put on them. So for most of the tanks, you can take off the turrets and you can switch things around. But for the side sponsons, that's not really an option. It's not really an option. So you kind of gotta pick something and kind of go with it. So for me, for most of the time, I've gone with the heavy bolters, because the heavy bolters can split fire, so you don't have to target the same target as the main cannon does, which I think is good. I think it's a big benefit. The other alternative, of course, is usually to add las cannons in your sponsons, and then the las cannons target the primary target. Did I do that with any of them? I did that. I did do that with my my. Oh, can I get a camera? Did do that with my predators. So my predators are las cannon predators, although the turret pops off and switches, but they've got las cannons and sponsons. That's because they are dedicated tank hunters, whereas a lot of the others are for kind of crashing into infantry and then shooting stuff up. Points. Yeah, so there's probably ways to min-max things, but I don't think that's what this game is for. I think this game is to play out the scenes from the Horus Heresy and be more of a historical game. So it's like playing a game of bolt action. It can be competitive. There are ways to be competitive within it. There are optimal things that you can do within the rules that historically don't feel right, if that makes sense. So I think if you're thinking about this game and want to play one of the legions and want to work out which legion to pick, please pick based on color or based on backstory. You might end up with a terrible set of rules, but in the long term, I think you're going to enjoy the game a lot more, because I don't think this is about competitive winning or losing. Some of the games here are competitive. Killteam and Warhammer Underworlds are definitely pitched at competitive. Bloodbowl as well. Bloodbowl is a very competitive game. Which is to say, each of those games can be played in a more casual, more fun way, but at the top levels, they're a little bit more balanced. I don't think Legions Imperialis is going to be balanced. Necromunda is in no way balanced. Warcry, I do actually feel like there's a decent balance in the top, but the game seems to be more intended for kind of just putting something cool together and throwing it at another cool warband. I think GW, if they wanted, could make Warcry super competitive. And I think if they wanted to, and I possibly think I might prefer this, they could take Killteam apart and make it a little bit more casual. So, yeah, I'm very much looking forward to getting that Inquisitorial Killteam together and doing it in a way that is like tying in extra models, bringing in stuff that, like, not the, what am I trying to say? I want to custom build a couple of models because I want to get a kill team for my Inquisitorial Warband that looks like the Inquisitorial Warband I want, rather than trying to optimize and pick out the perfect kill team and then throw those against some of the cultists and see how it goes. Anyway, yeah, competitive. I don't think Legions Imperialis should be played as competitive. I think some people will look at it that way and will try it that way, but I think it's a bit of a mistake. Overall, GW have had a great year for skirmish games. It hasn't always felt that way, but we have had regular releases across all the lines. Except Warhammer Quest. Poor Warhammer Quest. I also don't know why they haven't put a little bit more effort into it. They have talked about some Cursed City coming up in the January White Dwarf, so maybe we'll see something with that. And they did do a Cursed City for the Christmas event, so they have used the rules from Cursed City from that. Like, there is a lot of potential in that. It feels like, again, they're leaving money on the ground. Yeah, like extra boxes. They're still selling the core box for Cursed City, and they're selling the Blackstone Fortress box. If they did an expansion for either of them that was a proper expansion and not the ridiculous ones we saw for Cursed City, ones with some cool models and some custom rules, they would sell. People would lap them up. People would be loving them, would be buying them. The key part is that GW is having production and distribution problems at the moment. They obviously updated their website recently. It's improving. It was obviously a disaster when it started out, but it is improving. So hopefully the front end problems that we're having are mitigated by improvements in the back end that we can't see. And they are working on that. But yeah, production has been the big issue for GW this year. Like, if you're a Killteam fan and you weren't slamming refresh every second at 5 to 9 whenever the shop opened, you probably just weren't going to get your box. And if you weren't getting your boxes, often it kind of felt like, why are you even playing? If you're falling behind and you can't get new models to paint, it does kind of take the luster off slightly. Fingers crossed we see things a little better coming up in the new season, or in 2024. Killteam definitely is moving into a new season. Warcry probably is, after New Age of Sigmar comes out. Necromunda probably has a new season of the 3 books. Bloodbowl's an interesting one. I know people have talked about maybe there being an update to Blood Bowl, but I don't think there will be, because the Cyanide Games Blood Bowl 3 needs to remain relatively consistent. So unless we were going to see a big change in the rules on that to coincide with New Edition, I doubt we're going to see that happen. And the current core box is still great. Warhammer Underworlds is ticking along. As I said, as long as the models keep releasing great, we're going to be fine. And then Legions Imperialis had its big release. So overall, it's been a pretty good year for GW and for the skirmish game lines. And everything points towards 2024 being another good year as well. So fingers crossed. We new store anniversaries. So fingers crossed we have some good stuff coming down the line, and models to paint catch up with. Anyway, this has just been me rambling. I hope you enjoyed it. I do have videos coming up for Warcry Warband. We've got Necromunda lore video. I have said that I'm going to do a Legions Imperialis Titans and Knights. I'm not sure where we are with that yet. I did pick up a Blood Bowl team from Ben at the Bonehead podcast. He 3D printed some Skaven for me, which I want to show off at some point. They're absolutely beautiful. And for Killteam, I'm not sure what we're doing with Killteam for a little bit. I still do have a bunch of models to assemble and play, and some scenery to work on. But yeah, I'm sure we'll have something coming up soon enough. Anyway, thank you very much for listening to me. Have a great year. Thanks for making it all the way to the end. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Each week, I put up a new video talking about one of Games Workshop's specialist games. The goal is always to try and make the best possible 2-player experience. If this is something you'd find interesting, please subscribe to the channel and comment to let me know what you'd like to see in future.